Welcome into another episode of Tailgate Talk SEC. I am Will Thomas, and this is one of the best weeks of the year. Really only followed up by the week that college football actually starts, but that is when fall camp starts. Right, it's right around the corner. You've got every team reporting for practice. You've got intel coming in and day out. Really, the biggest concern for everybody at this point is just injuries. Everybody is praying that we all stay healthy through fall camp. Inevitably, that won't always happen, but it's one of the best times of year because football is officially right around the corner. And we've got some fall camp intel on 4 SEC teams so far through just, day 1 or day 2 of these practices, but really just kind of checking in on what all 4 teams are doing, some notable names, some injury updates, just all of that. But before we get into those 4 schools, if you have been enjoying all this content that I've been doing all summer long for the SEC, it's only going to ramp up as we hit August, as we've hit fall camp, and as we get up to the actual season. So subscribe to me here. Follow me on Twitter. I'm doing all of the things. It helps me out so much, and I appreciate everybody who already has. So let's just get straight into the intel that we already have from 4 of these teams. And the first one is the Auburn Tigers in Alex Golish's first year, his debut fall camp there on the Plains. Now, just some of the biggest notes, right? You have 2 pretty key contributors who at least figure to be key contributors on offense who are much leaner. One is Cole Bess, who transferred up from USF there on the interior of the offensive line. He doesn't really have an imposing frame, which he doesn't really need being on the inside, right? But he looks much leaner, much quicker, much more agile, and he's also very clearly been a vocal leader of that unit, which is exactly what you want out of your center there. And as he transfer up, right, even though he has a bunch of that familiarity among not just some of the other blockers, but his quarterback back there in Byron Brown, some of his receivers, his tight ends out there, that's still really impressive to see. Right, he's transferring up, so sure, he has his same coach, he has some of his same teammates, but moving up from USF to Auburn and still being that vocal leader on day 1 of fall camp, it's really promising for what he can be. Right, and you need that type of leadership there at center. And also Bryson Washington, he is a transfer running back coming over from Baylor. He also looks much leaner. Right, and he wasn't like a big, clunky power back there at Baylor, but he definitely used his size to his advantage when he was at Baylor, and you kind of saw that maybe some of that straight line speed wasn't always there. If he's able to develop that to then now play off of what Jeremiah Cobb can do, which is much more of that I'm going to beat you up until you can't tackle me anymore sort of mentality, that would be a big add to that running back room. And also on offense, Jonathan Eccles, who is coming up from USF at tight end, he caught a lot of eyes. Right, so that tight end room, Jake Johnson kind of figures to be the leader, right? To sort of be that head tight end there. It's still very open, and even though it's tight end, so it's not one of those power positions. Tight ends can easily be an X factor on any given drive, and then therefore be an X factor in any given game. So that is a very crucial position to figure out. And Jonathan Eccles seems to be catching a lot of eyes there during the tight end drills in the open viewing portion of those practices. And Deshaun Spencer at receiver, I talked about him a good bit. As a true freshman, he could really be a breakout player there for Auburn in a receiver room that has, those 3 USF guys and then kind of what else. He was consistently one of the first wideouts to go in most of the drills. And sure, you could tell me, oh, that's just drills in practice. The order of those drills is pretty reflective of the order in the depth chart. So sure, maybe he's not 1 or number 2, but he's clearly poised to get a lot of reps. He's thought of very highly in that receiver room. So Deshaun Spencer, as a true freshman, might be getting tons of run there for Auburn. Moving on now to the next team that we've got here, that's the Florida Gators. Another first-year head coach here, John Summerall, kicking things off in Gainesville and fall camp. One of the biggest updates for Florida fans is that Dallas Wilson, the 5-star receiver who broke out when he was healthy last year, he practiced for the first time this season. Right, he was finally full go all the way back. Summerall did say they're going to take the right precautions with him just because he has had sometimes when he's been, we thought back, some flare-ups of that foot, those ankle injuries. So they're going to be protective of him, but he is back, he is practicing, and so is Fletcher Westphal at offensive tackle. He's also back on the field. And O-line is one of the biggest concerns for this Florida team, so getting back Westphal, who is a big, experienced guy there at tackle, is big for the Gators. Also, Dijon Johnson, another injury update here. He was in a non-contact jersey, had a compression sleeve on his right leg, but he was out there on the field. He had a meniscus injury last season, caused him to get surgery after his week 3, I believe, that ended his year, and had a secondary procedure after spring. So he's still working back, but he was on the field today for the Florida Gators. And in terms of the quarterback battle, right, between Aaron Philo and Tramel Jones. To no one's real surprise, not a lot of that intel was gatherable from the public viewing periods. But both guys, they threw it around towards, stationary targets. There weren't any live passing reps to backs, receivers, tight ends during the open viewing period. So Philo and Jones is still very much a battle that is still ongoing, and that's being held pretty close to the vest by Summerall and the Florida staff. Team number 3 that we've got here today are the Missouri Tigers. Now, I was really excited that we're already getting intel out of Missouri. This is one of the teams that I'm most excited about to watch this year. And one of my biggest questions about them is really just that defense, but mainly the edge rushers. Because they have to replace Zion Young and Damon Wilson coming off the edge, who were a dynamic duo last year. They're both gone. And that entire room has added tons of really good mass, right? Mainly Darius Smith, who figures to be that top edge rusher this year. They are way bigger. They are way stronger, way more physical. You need that. Obviously, you need that. So that's a very promising update towards their edge rushing room because of how much they need to replace from those two guys. Zion now in the pros, Damon Wilson now at Miami. And we got an Ahmad Hardy update from Eli Drinkwitz. This is what he said in quotes. He will not be a participant in practice this week, but he will be a participant in rehab and walkthroughs as we continue to get him acclimated back to what it would take to play football. And he said in about 2 weeks, they'll have maybe another update for Ahmad, just a progress update where he's at. So he's around the team, right? He's going to be a part of walkthroughs, but he's not putting on pads. He's not really running drills yet. He is still working back from the gunshot wound. So are we going to get him back when the season starts? I'd be a little surprised at this point, right? He might not play that first game. Maybe he'll show up back versus Kansas. But I think at this point, if you're Missouri, if you can get Ahmad Hardy back for SEC play, for that conference opener, that's a big-time win. So we should get him back. Will it be week 1? At this point, my assessment would be I kind of doubt it. But hopefully he continues to work back and get healthier and healthier. And then the final team we have an update for today are the Tennessee Vols, led by Josh Heupel. Another quarterback battle here in Knoxville. And although we kind of have on this one is that they both had very clean passing periods, right? They're both getting coached up in different ways, but they both made very impressive throws. They both made some similar mistakes, right? It was reported they both missed the same throw high and long. So obviously you're seeing both these quarterbacks keep developing. They're both very young, but there wasn't really much of an update in terms of an edge in that battle from day 1 of fall camp either. Mike Matthews and Kane Lee. Matthews, one of those star-studded receivers. Kane Lee is coming in at corner from Auburn. They had some great battles for some jump balls, and just a high-point drill. Both those guys figured to be really dynamic players for Tennessee this year. The defensive line looked upgraded physically. Right, and then that's the D-line that lost Caleb Herring, that lost Jordan Ross in the transfer portal, but they still look much better physically than they did last year, which is a big boost because that Vols defense was horrible last season, and for Jim Knowles to really be able to upgrade it, you need to start that up front, so having a much more physically imposing presence, a much stronger presence, is a massive start in that regard. And Josh Heupel said TK Keys, their 5-star receiver, who was one of the best players in the country last year as a recruit, he's ready to go. He's fully healthy. So we saw some clips of him practicing, from this morning. He looks really fun, man. He looks like he's going to have a great year if he can be healthy, and he can really break into that receiver room pretty early on. So look, day 1 of fall camp, nothing really groundbreaking, right? Most of it is just injury updates on, who is out there. Are they wearing a non-contact? Are they playing through football? And we just have some quarterback battle intel to watch. So obviously this will be coming out every single day. I'm going to have it covered every single day. So if you want some more fall camp intel and just some more all-encompassing SEC previews as we are in the final stretch, the final few weeks without college football, subscribe to me here and follow me on Twitter. I've been Will Thomas, and I will see you next time.